Let's build this tune from the beginning.
Kick plays quarter notes with a couple eighth notes and 16th notes sprinkled in. Ride cymbal plays eighth notes. The rim plays on beats 2 and 4. The shakers play 16th notes, accenting eighth note offbeats. Ghost notes are delicate rhythms that are meant to be felt more than heard. When played on the snare drum, they have a unique ability to scat or rap along with the tune. My ghost note snares are linked to the rhythmically active guitar chords. You want the loudest ghost notes to sync with the most prominent notes of the part you're linking. Precede these loudest ghost notes with another ghost note in the grid your tune is based in. Finally, we'll add a third ghost note snare that can come in two different places. It can come as a third ghost note in the sequence leading up to the accented note. It can also come right after the accented note, especially if that note leads into the strong beat of a kick. You can get these recordings and many more using these instruments in my sample pack. The samples are full loop compositions with many layers. You'll get the full loop as well as the stems and MIDI. The stem format allows you to avoid the 4-bar loop trap and makes it really easy to build a whole arrangement. The samples cover a wide range of tempos, from hip-hop to house and drum and bass, and the inclusion of MIDI makes it so you don't have to guess what's going on in the chords or notes. Let's put the chords together. We are in the key of F sharp minor, and the chord progression goes from the chord built on the first note of the scale to the chord built on the fourth note of the scale. Chords are built by stacking every other note. For the one chord, start on the first note, F sharp, then skip the second note and add the third note, A, then skip the fourth note and add the fifth note, C sharp. At this point, we have a 3-note chord, a triad. Think of triads as primary colors. They lack the depth required by modern music styles. We need to keep skipping notes to get beyond the triad. The next note in this vertical staircase is E, the 7th. The color is a bit more interesting, but it's still in the triad world. Skip another note and we arrive at the 9th, G sharp. With the 9th, we get the modern chord color, pastel in tone and watercolor in texture. Let's skip one more note and arrive at the 11th, B. This chord is F sharp minor 11, and it's aquatic. All of these chords beyond the triad are called extended chords. When extending chords this far, the character comes more from the voicing, the way that the notes are positioned. To get this chord sounding like a flowing river rather than a vertical skyscraper, let's duplicate and reposition some of the notes. Move the 11th, B, down one octave. Swap the first note, F sharp, for G sharp, which is now a duplicate of the 9th. The F sharp is the root, and we don't need it in the chord voicing because the bass is going to play this note for us. These modifications to the chord voicing make it so that we have 4 notes right next to each other. This is a cluster. Clusters are super watery, especially when played on a Rhodes. Duplicate the 5th note, C sharp, an octave higher. This note will serve as a harmonic cloud that will float over the whole tune. Now let's build the second chord, built on the 4th note of the F sharp minor scale, which is B. For this chord, we'll stack up to the 9th. B, D, F sharp, A, and C sharp. This is B minor 9. To maintain the aqua vibe, we want the notes of the first chord to connect as smoothly as possible with the notes of the second chord. To do this, look for a voicing where the notes of the first chord don't have to move more than 1 or 2 semitones to get to a note in the next chord. Move the first note, B, to C sharp. And duplicate the 7th, A, down an octave.
Now the two chords transition really smoothly. I reinforced the water level vibe by repeating each chord in higher octaves. Bass is the opposite of the chords. The chords provide the color, while the bass provides the foundation, the 1 and the 5. For the F sharp minor 11 chord, the 1 and the 5 are F sharp and C sharp. The challenge of creating bass lines is finding ways to create interest with limited options. There are two ways to expand bass note options without taking away from the foundation. When playing the 1, F sharp, in higher octaves, you can play the note immediately above it in the scale, G sharp, or 2. This functions as a suspension of F sharp. G sharp hangs above its target and then falls down to F sharp. When playing the 1, F sharp, in lower octaves, you can play the note immediately below it in the scale, the 7th, E. This note leads back into the 1, F sharp. So many bass lines are possible with just these 4 notes, but what gives a bass line its identity more than anything is rhythm. You can get into this headspace by approaching the bass line the way you would approach a drum beat. Now that we've got a solid bass groove, when the chord progression moves to the second chord, B minor 9, we can simply move all of these notes and rhythms to start on B. The guitar is playing the same chord progression as the Rhodes. When you're creating multiple chord layers, you don't have to create a new chord progression or harmonic material for each layer. Instead, find a different way to articulate the chord progression, ideally with the layers contrasting one another. Guitar and keyboard make a great pair because they each naturally are able to do what the other struggles to do. With the Rhodes part, we were easily able to position the notes of the chords very close together. This is actually pretty difficult to do on a guitar. There are only a couple types of chords that can be played in this way on guitar, which is called close position. The layout of the guitar fretboard makes open position voicings a natural option. A common open voicing on guitar is called drop 2. Our guitar voicing will only use 4 notes, which is another fundamental difference between guitar and keyboard. On a keyboard, we can easily use all 10 fingers to play 10 different notes and arrange them as close or as far from each other as we'd like. A guitar only has 6 strings, and unless we're playing acoustic folk music, one typically doesn't play all 6 strings at once. Instead, it's common to play chords that have 3 or 4 notes at most. For our F sharp minor 11 chord, we'll take the 3, 5, 7, and 9, which actually form a chord in of itself. Bonus points to anyone who can name that chord in the comments. From these 4 notes, take the second note from the top, E, and drop it down an octave. We have dropped the second note down an octave, thus a drop 2 voicing. This is very comfortable to play on guitar. Another great thing about guitar is how grid-based it is, as opposed to keyboard. When you find a shape on the guitar, you can visually relocate it around the fretboard in a geometric way. When the chord changes to B minor 9, we can shift this exact chord shape up 5 semitones to match the root movement in the bass. On the guitar, each fret is 1 semitone. Moving up 5 semitones means moving up 5 frets, from the 2nd fret to the 7th fret. These chords are played using short, funky rhythms, and make use of another aspect of guitar that is very natural to execute, sliding by 1 semitone or 1 fret into the target chord. The melody emphasizes the top notes of the Rhodes chords, C sharp. Leading into the F sharp minor 11 chord, the melody starts on F sharp and then descends through the scale, landing on C sharp. When leading into the B minor 9 chord, the melody moves in the opposite direction. It starts on C sharp and ascends up to F sharp, where it then drops right back down to C sharp. The melodic physics are really clear and defined. The lead guitar section at the end elaborates on this melodic idea in the form of a call and response. The call teeters on the C sharp note, moving up to D and E, and then coming back to C sharp. The answer features an increasingly lyrical response, played with melodic flair. The main guitar solo uses a scale that doesn't have a common name, but is arguably the most useful scale for modern beat styles. It's a 6-note scale. It uses the 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. Over the F sharp minor 11 chord, that's F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, and E. Over the B minor 9 chord, that's B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and A. All of the notes of the scale and of the chord are complementary. This is what's being used for the improvisations.
The second section is the same idea as the first, but differentiated by the use of heavy filter envelopes in the Rhodes bass and guitar. To articulate the change from the open vibe to the filtered vibe, I used white noise, a subtle cymbal roll, and a pad called Glyphic from my Ambi electronic preset pack for Ableton's analog synthesizer. I hope you found this useful. The sample pack link is in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.